when the Treasury bench spoke, it was very interesting because I think they're actually living in a bubble, absolutely away from reality in a fairy tale world. Because most of the targets that they were committed to or what came from Treasury benches were numbers which are absolutely unrealistic and unreal, giving the fiscal health of the situation. Actually, the budget has exposed the failings of this government when it comes to fiscal health. The fact is that the government seems to have run out of revenues completely when it really needed it the most. Talking about 5 trillion economy, the Treasury bench was talking about a $10 trillion economy. I mean, I think especially coming from them, I just wanted to ask them one humble question. Is to achieve $5 trillion economy, what is the growth rate is required? And you all are talking about 10. They are barely not even crossing 5 with all the numbers that they are giving. It's absolutely worrisome for the commitments they are doing. They are very proud of the insolvency code. It's a very good thing. If the government is going to get NPAs going, people are going to pay back. It's a wonderful thing. I'm really happy to hear that. We all supported it. And if it's going to be a fair and an equal marketplace, we support any such reforms which are in the interest of the economy and development of the state. But there was a word he used, velocity of resolution has really gone up. I just want to like to ask the Honorable Minister, who's here, one humble question, that you're very proud of your insolvency code. There's a company called Alok Industries, which was taken a loan of 49,000 crores. They paid back 4,900 crores. So the haircut was of 90%. You can verify this. I'm giving you all this information from the newspapers. Then they want to do a bullet train, which is something which came about 4 times. The bullet train is in my state, sir. I want to ask this government that you want to do a bullet train, wonderful. Are you going to entirely pay for it? Because the land acquisition, when they were in power 5 years, nothing has happened. Instead of that, in the railway, where Dombivli, Kalyan, Thane, which is the maximum number of people who use their rail lines, you've really done nothing for it. So you are again in that fairy tale mode. It's like Cinderella. These things happen only in fairy tales. They don't happen in reality. So bullet train is like that. They keep committing about it. They've not even acquired 1 acre of land for it. And there is huge research. And there are 7 people who die every day on Mumbai suburban railways. Imagine, sir, 7 people die every day. There's not a mention of that. But the bullet train is there, which is again in their fairy tale mode. The Honorable Minister talked about capital expenditure, you know, the feel-good factor. I don't know how they are feeling good, because our markets reacted. The market crashed 1,200 crores when we were sitting here, 1,200 points when we were sitting here for 3 hours 47 minutes. After much recovery, it recovered, but it finally closed at minus 450. So from 1,200 to 4, but it's still closed at minus 450 points. So I don't know what feel-good factor this government is talking about. Another thing that they talked about, all the sectors are doing well. The Honorable Minister of Finance, Mr. Thakurji, talked about how well the economy is doing this morning. I was really happy to hear that. It's again the fairy tale mode. And they're living in a make-believe world, because I don't see any of that really happening in reality. I come from a producer state. Maharashtra has probably the largest investments, especially the district that I come from. Be it the telecom sector, be it the auto sector, the realty sector, all the core sectors, be it coal, are all in the negative. So I don't know where we are getting the data on the field vis-a-vis this data where this government is getting. He talked about banks. I was very happy that he said that the banks were doing exceptionally well. I take this opportunity and humbly request the Honorable Finance Minister of State that the Punjab Maharashtra Cooperative Bank is under a lot of distress. We have asked for help from the central government. Yes, it is a multi-state bank. I do understand it is partly a state subject, but the Ministry of Finance from Maharashtra has written to them asking RBI to give a clarification and help us, because it's not only a bank which is in Maharashtra, it's in 6 other states. So would the Honorable Minister in his reply give a clear-cut vision, because we are willing to help, but I think this is not about you versus us. It's about you and us helping the poor depositors of the PMC Bank in Maharashtra who really are under distress. And this is hard-earned money which people are losing, and nobody is really at fault. Nor are you at fault, nor are we at fault. It's the system that was faulty which needed change. So I would urge and take this opportunity to ask him to give us some help. talking about all the sectors that he was talking so well, be it CREDAI, being SIM, these are all agencies which work pan-India for the auto sector, the telecom sector, all kind of sectors. Each one has reacted negatively. I'll give you little data, sir, to share with you. The GDP which this government has extended at 12% is not growing more than 8.5%. The fiscal deficit, 3.5, was expected, now is almost at 3.8, we don't know where it's going to go. The estimated net tax revenue was 1,649,582 crores, is actually now only at 1,504,587 crores. The disinvestment target, this is a very important target, sir. They are looking at selling LIC, Air India, God knows how many things. The disinvestment target was at 1,05,000 crores. Their yield is only at 65,000. So they have not reached more than 60% anywhere. The government spending is, despite the borrowing of 63,086 crores, they have reached only right now, it should have been 27,86,379 crores. The gross tax revenues, there is a huge loss. The numbers are 3 lakh crores. He'll have to verify what really the number is. I still like to quote Sri Arunji, who I remember clearly here. It's unfortunate that he's with us no more. Sir, he came up with the FRBM Act. Now, what was the FRBM Act? It was not just for the country, but it was even for the states. And the intent was exceptionally good of the government. And what was it for? It was to control deficit, have good fiscal discipline, and even limit the states so that nobody overspends, so there is no bankruptcy. And the reason nobody needs to be bankrupt, because all our social sector programs, be it healthcare, be it education, gets affected when the economy slows down. So in this, what has been done in the FRBM Act, I still remember Sri Arunji speaking from here. In 2014, he said that the fiscal deficit has to stay between not more than 3.2 and always lesser than 3.2. In your government, it has reached 3.8, always probably going to reach 4. And you're using the Act. Now, why are you using this Act? To bring it, because that commitment was 3.4. If you disagree, I'm happy to listen to you in your reply. And it would reassure us if that's not the case. I'd be more than happy to know that that's not the case. But the whole debt structure looks really very worrisome. So one last point about the farmers. I have a lot of points, but I'll try and finish as soon as I can. So just 2 minutes. For the farmers, you talked about doubling incomes. Now in 2 years, how are you going to? The 16 plans that you made is a wonderful plan. It's again the fairy tale moment. It sounds wonderful on paper, but it's not going to happen, because that whole 16 measures were like a long laundry list. There was only wishes and intentions, and I'd like to highlight one point out of it. They talked about solar. The intention is exceptionally good, but in solar, just to bring to the notice of the Honorable Minister, 92% of solar modules come from China. Now this Make in India business, I don't know where it's headed, but 92% comes from China. The PV model part of the solar, 20% tax, and you have capped imports. So imports are capped, the taxation is gone up, you have disrupted the whole thing, the policy has changed, and that's the sentiment India is going through this difficulty. The service tax now has become 18% and the goods tax 10%. So there's a gap of 8,000 crores of people who have already invested in the solar business. Now, who is going to pay this 8,000? States cannot afford to pay it. You're not willing to pay it. So this is the sentiment of this country. There's continuous disruption of policies. And that's what the problem of this entire scheme of things is. How are you going to mobilize the finance? Who are the investors? Who are the startups? How is this going to do? Another very good intention is zero budget natural farming. Very good step. Very happy to have organic things. But where is the yield? Organic farming, very wonderful thing. We all grew up eating organic. Can you just quickly tell us what this is? 2 last very short points which I really need a clarification, because I come from a producing state who is suffering because of the slabs of GST. 2 big major mistakes they have made. GST, they made slabs, The same thing they are doing in taxation again. Multiple slabs. You put everybody in a slab. I don't know which chartered accountant's life has become serious. At least the one who studied with me are not sounding very happy with the situation. But the cess and the surcharges, so much cess is collected. How come we don't get it for education in our states? Because they'll say, oh, it's in a kitty. Then if your kitty is doing the same thing about Narega. My friend Kani Moriji talked about Narega earlier. Somebody said, oh, it is very demand driven. Yes, it is a demand driven program. But the Labour Ministry has recommended the increase. If your economy is doing well, you have so much money, your banks are doing well, then why don't you increase it to 375 rupees, which is the recommendation of the Labour Department.
Thank you, Supriya ji.
The last, only one last point.